According to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, 1 in 9 people on Earth suffered from hunger in 2014 to 2016. Experts estimate that by 2040, world food supplies will be catastrophic, resulting in a global, unprecedented food epidemic. That's why billions of dollars are being invested into increasing and stabilizing the world's supply of healthy and nutritious food, leading to a dramatic increase in genetically modifying foods. But are these miracle foods all they claim to be? My name is Muaz Gada, and join me today as I uncover the good, the bad, and the ugly on genetically modified organisms. You've probably heard of the term GMO, but you don't know what a genetically modified organism really is. Well, let me explain. Genetically modified organisms refer to plants, animals, or microorganisms whose DNA has been altered by humans in a way that does not occur naturally, by modern biotechnology, also called genetic engineering, in a laboratory environment. Genetic modification of food may include the addition of DNA from species that would not breed in nature by mating or natural recombination. It may also involve removing specific strands of DNA from foods that are not considered ideal. The result is that the DNA of a GMO has at least one gene that is foreign to its species. In theory, genetically modified foods are developed and marketed because there is some perceived advantage either to the producer or consumer of these foods. For example, the promise of a product with a high nutritional value or a lower priced product. But why, and more importantly, who started creating GMOs? Well, it was seed developers who first started genetically modifying their seeds to be more attractive to farmers who are concerned with crop protection, by making the seeds resistant to plant diseases caused by insects or viruses, as well as making seeds resistant to herbicides. Genetically modified seeds became hugely popular as they presented a guaranteed way for farmers to save millions of dollars on lost crops due to pests or diseases. Today, Monsanto, the agrochemical company responsible for creating the world's most widely used weed killer, Roundup, is the largest producer of GE or genetically engineered seeds on the planet. Today, cross-species, transgenic, and genetic manipulation has gone so far as to result in weird combinations such as glow-in-the-dark cats, cabbages that excrete scorpion poison, and the addition of fish DNA to strawberries and tomatoes. GMO foods have only existed in groceries since the late 1990s. Over 30,000 different GMOs exist on store shelves, largely because of how many processed foods contain soy, one of the most largely genetically modified crops apart from corn. Genetically modified fresh produce, unlike their non-GMO counterparts, are usually the best-looking fruit and vegetables on the shelves, since they're resistant to pests and viruses, and therefore usually unblemished and perfectly shaped. So, if GMOs are awesome as they're made out to be, why are so many people around the world against it? The answer lies simply in the science of GMOs. There are two basic types of GM food. First, there are pesticide producers that kill insects, just like Monsanto's Bt corn. A gene from a naturally occurring bacteria is inserted into the DNA of corn, causing the modified corn to produce a toxin that kills insects. The result is a bug-killing, pesticide-filled corn. Secondly, there are herbicide resistors, which are immune to weed killer. The DNA is altered with a soil bacteria gene to make the plant immune to Monsanto's signature weed killer, Roundup. Farmers spray their fields with Roundup to kill every weed and unwanted plant. But even when coated in herbicide, the herbicide resistors remain unharmed. It is this lethal combination of bacteria and chemicals in the makeup of GMOs that have people debating the health implications of consuming GM foods. Chemicals such as Agrobacterium tumefaciens, vectors, Ti plasmin, Cry1AB gene, and the glyphosate-resistant enzymes called ESPS, which are all harmful to animals, including humans. GMO studies have indicated a major justification for these concerns. One particular study showed that mice who were fed genetically modified pesticide-producing corn over 4 generations showed abnormal structural and chemical changes to various organs and significantly reduced fertility. In addition, The companies producing GMOs, such as Monsanto, are not prepared to allow independent bodies and health regulation authorities to test their seeds to ensure that they are safe for human consumption. This cloak of secrecy and refusal to cooperate with authorities adds even more mystery, suspicion, and fear around genetically modified organics. A 2004 study published in the Journal of Organic Systems highlighted genetically engineered crops, glyphosate, and the deterioration of health in the United States of America. Glyphosate is a herbicide created by Monsanto. This study linked GMOs to 22 diseases related to infertility, immune dysregulation, accelerated aging, dysregulation of genes associated with cholesterol synthesis, insulin regulation, cell signaling, protein formation, and changes in the liver, kidney, spleen, and gastrointestinal system. Another important point in this debate is money. GMO producers are accused of creating GMOs solely to dominate the marketplace for financial profit. Roundup and glyphosate kill all plants except GMOs. By doing this, Monsanto and other GMO producers ensure that their produce are the only ones sold in the market, since competitors non-GM produce will not survive being exposed to these chemicals. So, who are the top GMO producers? Here, we can see that DuPont dominates global seed sales with 32% of the market share, trailed very closely by Monsanto at 30%. However, DuPont licenses the technology to modify seeds from Monsanto, and recently paid them $1.75 billion to do so, still making Monsanto the largest conglomerate in the GMO industry, with net sales of $15 billion in 2015 and $13.5 billion in 2016. The USA, which is the largest producer of GMO crops, does not mandate labels for GMO foods. This means that companies are not required by law to label their products as GMO in the United States. This ensures that GMO producers can sell their products without any restrictions, despite all the serious health risks they pose. However, in 30 other countries, including Australia, there are bans or restrictions on the production of GMOs because they are not considered proven safe for human consumption. So, what are the most common GMOs? As you can see from this graph, the 5 most common genetically modified crops are corn, with 85% of all its produce being genetically modified; cotton, with 88% of all its produce being genetically modified; canola, with 90% of all its produce being genetically modified; sugar beets, with also 90% of all its produce being genetically modified; soy, with 91% of all its produce being genetically modified. These ingredients are among the most common food ingredients in the most basic food items, ranging from cereals, pastas, sauces, baked goods, and pet food, to name a few. This makes it extremely difficult to have a diet which is genetically modified organism free. So, what do health experts have to say about the GMO debacle? I recently spoke to Melanie Young, bioresonance therapist and owner at InterHarmony Health Services, about the health impact of consuming genetically modified foods.
To start off our interview, can you tell me a bit about what you do and how your treatment works?
Sure, no problem. So I'm a bioresonance therapist. I've been practicing for 10 years and I use this machine here, which is called a Bicom machine that comes out of Germany, and it's been around for about 35 years. And what it's able to do is to diagnose where allergies are blocking the system of the body, and then it also treats to remove the allergies to harmonise the bodies for people. So you're wanting to talk to me about allergies in specific. It does all sorts of things, but it does work with people that have food intolerances.
Field of expertise. Have you seen a recent increase in the number of patients with allergies?
Definitely. There's certainly a high percentage of people coming in with intolerances. They're not even sure specifically what they are, but a lot of them I ended up determining that they are from foods that they're eating.
What are the possible causes of these allergies?
I think definitely all the chemicals that are put into foods these days are causing a lot of the problems for a lot of people. So there's a lot of additives and preservatives that are put into our food supply, also into our water. There's a lot of heavy metals and things. But certainly the things that I'm finding the most that people are coming into, and children as well a lot these days too, with intolerances to very specific foods that are then showing up in their body as they might have digestive issues, or they might have respiratory issues, or they might get eczema on their skin, or psoriasis, which is the dermatitis type skin problems, and it's usually from the foods. Yes.
What percentage of these allergies do you think are caused by the food people eat?
I would be saying probably 80-90%.
Oh, okay.
With those people that are coming in with allergy, definitely from the foods, yes. Because I'm able to identify specifically which foods it is that they're actually allergic to on the machine. So the ones that show up the most for people, the most common problem that people have is dairy products, or from the grains, from the wheat. The yeast and gluten's a really, really big problem too. And I think that's just because they've been genetically modified with the animals.
What's your opinion on genetically modified food?
So I think there's a real challenge with the genetically modified foods in the environment that we're living in, is because I'm just seeing more and more people that are coming in with physical ailments from these products. So the more we can go organic, unfortunately the soil here in Australia particularly, but all around the world now, it's so polluted and has been stripped of all the nutrients and everything as well. So the fact that they're now putting all of the GM into foods as well just makes it really difficult for people to find those ideal products that are going to give them ideal health. So the more we can go organic, then the more that we can have optimal health, which is the ideal for all of us.
Since experts agree that GMOs pose a real threat to our health, here are 5 steps that you can take to avoid genetically modified foods. 1. Buy food that is labelled 100% organic. If you buy food that is labelled organic, you can be sure that it is free of GMOs. 2. Buy 100% grass-fed meat. Most of the time, cows, sheep, goats, etc. are not only fed grass, but different types of food, which can consist of GM corn. 3. Shop locally. More than half of all GM produce is made in the US, which is why it is better to shop locally. 4. Buy whole foods. Buy foods that you can cook and prepare yourself, rather than foods that are processed or prepared. 5. Grow your own food. If you grow your own food, and you buy seeds that have not been genetically modified, you're definitely eating organic foods. The popularity of backyard gardens and growing your own foods have gone from being a mere hobby to that of almost a necessity. Even local schools are taking up the initiative by starting community gardens like the one at JPC. I spoke to Jake Gilroy, head groundsman and horticulturalist at John Paul College, about their community garden project called Finch Farm.
How long have you been working at the school, or just growing crops?
Okay, I've been at the college for just on 3 years now, as the head of grounds, and my background is horticulture. So I was raised on a farm that did a lot of growing of different crops and stuff, and I've got a history in greenhouses and greenhouse building and stuff like that. So yeah.
Do you enjoy what you do?
Absolutely love it. It's the best job in the world, working outdoors, and working outdoors is a privilege for me, so you get to enjoy the benefits that this climate has to offer, especially in Queensland. It's fantastic.
Do you grow genetically modified seeds, or do you use organic seeds?
On Finch Farm here at the college, we use organic materials, so we don't delve a lot into genetically modified organisms, or GMO as it's known as. So but mostly organics. It's easier to obtain, and 2, I think you get a more flavoursome fruit or yield out of what we do here with organics.
Have you ever grown genetically
Personally,
modified
I haven't grown GMO products, but in a previous job where I used to work a lot in greenhouse building and fodder sheds in particular, they used to use a lot of GMO seeds, so things like sorghum, wheat, barley, and those sorts of things, because they produced a higher yield, especially for cattle feeding and sheep grazing and those sorts of things. Lucerne, those sorts of crops were I used to work a little bit with in my previous job, GMO food. So yeah, I sort of worked a little bit with it, but never personally grown it. We're really fortunate being in Brisbane and Queensland because of our our climate allows us to grow things quite easily, and plants, especially seedlings, like a real good one to grow at home that's easy is like cherry tomatoes. You can go with bigger tomatoes, but cherry tomatoes seem to react better in our climate because with most plants they do absorb a lot of water. Okay, and tomatoes do need a lot of water, especially when it comes to fruiting time. So cherry tomatoes is one of those things where you can sort of water a bit less than a bigger tomato. Iceberg lettuce is a good one up here, and cos lettuce is a really good one. All your herbs, parsley, thyme, basil's a real good one, kale if you're into it. All those sort of fruits and vegetables are really good for Queensland climate and backyard gardens. So you really can't go wrong with that sort of stuff. If you move further down south where it's a bit cooler climate, you probably have to look a little bit differently what you plant. But up in Queensland we're fortunate with our humidity levels where everything grows really quick and strong up here, so we're sort of lucky in that regard.
One of the biggest reasons genetically modified foods sell so well is the fact that they look good. The fact that we are so aesthetically driven means that we will almost always choose foods that look closer to the perfect image we all have for different foods. We put this theory to the test by creating a little experiment that you will also be a part of. To illustrate our natural tendency to choose what looks appealing, take a look at these two refreshing glasses of Oreo milkshake. Pick the one that you would drink. We'll give you 5 seconds to pick. If you chose the glass on the right, you join a whopping 80% of people we posed the same question to. Even without knowing the ingredients, just by looking at the fancy presentation and props, we assume that the more attractive looking milkshake is the most nutritious. The fact is that the glass on the left is actually more nutritious, containing full cream cow's milk and crushed Oreos, while the glass on the right actually contains full cream cow's milk and, wait for it, soy, not Oreos. This experiment is extremely important as it highlights the fact that people associate nutrition and goodness with the better looking food, which may not always be the better choice. Genetically modified foods will always look perfect, but now we know that looks don't associate with goodness, since the wholesome, organic food may not always be shaped perfectly, but it will most certainly contain less chemicals. It may not be appealing to our eyes, but it will be definitely safer than eating GMOs. So there you have it. Remember to stay informed and eat healthy. This is Moaz Gada, signing off for GMO Foods, the good, the bad, and the ugly.